In Egypt, Ramadan is a month-long Islamic fasting period that also serves as the peak television advertising season. For brands, it is a high-stakes, highly competitive window to secure market dominance. During the 2017 season, Bank, the Egyptian Gulf Bank, a major regional financial institution, launched a massive advertising campaign targeted squarely at young adults. Within the first 10 days, the campaign captured a massive scale of attention online. It generated hundreds of comments and widespread amusement across social media channels. This dual-line timeline tracks the campaign's life cycle. You can see the initial viral success mapping perfectly to the target demographic, colliding almost instantly with a sudden, severe pushback from psychiatric professionals and the broader public. The Bank campaign represents a core marketing paradox. The brand built a perfectly targeted campaign that successfully captured its audience's attention while simultaneously alienating that exact same audience on a deeply psychological level. To understand the error, we have to look at the specific cultural pain point the campaign targeted: young Egyptian adults who feel neglected, undervalued, or explicitly disrespected by their own families. The bank built its entire creative apparatus around a bold, direct slogan: "No one takes you into account. We made a bank for you." This node map illustrates the strategy. Bank used this slogan to position itself as the sole institutional provider of prestige, creating a direct bridge to a demographic completely starved of respect. The strategy brilliantly identified an underserved market segment. It promised institutional validation to a group that felt entirely ignored by the adult world. On a strictly strategic level, this prestige positioning operated as a theoretically flawless method for capturing a disaffected youth market. Moving from the strategic whiteboard to the actual creative execution reveals where the disconnect occurred. The brand produced a 6-part ad series featuring a recurring young protagonist clashing with his father. The ads depict highly specific domestic scenarios. In one, the father kicks his sleeping son out of a reception area to host friends. In another, he abruptly turns off the television while the son is watching a football match. The scenarios escalate into public humiliation, showing the father belittling the son in front of his girlfriend or calling him a child in the street. This grid visualizes the 4 core ad scenarios. The common narrative thread uniting them is the son's relentless humiliation, framed as a funny, situational gag. The marketing team believed reflecting this harsh family reality would act as a highly relatable bonding mechanism with the viewer. For the first 10 days of the broadcast, the public reaction appeared to validate this assumption. Audiences laughed at the familiarity of the abuse. However, the brand fell into a dangerous creative trap. They assumed that because a painful family dynamic is common, it's acceptable to exploit for laughs. This assumption sparked fierce pushback from mental health experts, specifically the psychiatrist Dr. Imad Soliman. Dr. Soliman's initial finding clarified the scope of the problem. He noted watching these campaigns will not actually influence the way parents deal with their children. However, the true danger of the campaign lies elsewhere. The campaign will have a highly destructive effect on how teenagers and young adults view themselves. This feedback loop demonstrates the psychological mechanism at play. A teenager maps their own experiences onto the humiliated son on screen. This triggered identification summons latent feelings of oppression, actively recalling their lived trauma. Ultimately, the ads actively reinforce the audience's deep-seated feeling of rejection. This psychological reality sits in direct opposition to the original marketing strategy. Instead of granting the youth prestige, the ads inflicted actual emotional degradation. Leveraging a target audience's psychological pain to secure brand engagement destroys the exact trust the campaign attempts to build. Moving beyond individual psychological triggers, we have to look at the broader societal impact of broadcasting toxic behavior to the masses in Egypt. Dr. Soliman issued a strict warning regarding the media's responsibility to the society it operates within. The core accusation leveled against the advertisers was severe. They were portraying an unhealthy, pathetic relationship as a completely normal, everyday occurrence. The sheer saturation of the campaign amplified the damage. The constant repetition of these 6 ads throughout Ramadan actively normalized emotional abuse. While the creative arts have a duty to shed light on societal problems, a brand crossing the line to simply mock those problems for attention is highly destructive. Advertising must never construct toxic examples to be accepted or followed by people in everyday lives. When brands normalize abuse for the sake of engagement, they transition from marketers attempting to solve a problem into social liabilities perpetuating one. E.g., Bank is part of a longer history of brands crossing the line of familial abuse in Egyptian advertising. We can look at a distinct historical precedent, an advertising campaign launched by a well-known potato chip brand 2 years prior. The core action of that banned potato chip ad was direct. It featured a father violently slapping his child. The regulatory result was immediate and severe. The Consumer Protection Agency, the Egyptian government body regulating market practices, forcefully banned the campaign. The agency's exact reasoning was that the ad explicitly supported domestic violence and reshaped it to seem like acceptable behavior. This scale plots the regulatory risk of both campaigns. While the potato chip ad utilized physical violence, E.g. Bank relied on intense psychological and verbal humiliation. E.g. Bank's execution of emotional humiliation sat dangerously close to the exact physical violence threshold that triggers immediate government intervention and brand shutdown. We can evaluate the entire E.g. Bank campaign strictly through the lens of an MBA program, which provides the standard frameworks for risk management and corporate strategy. This matrix graphs market attention on the y-axis against psychological and regulatory risk on the x-axis. We plot the initial prestige positioning high on the y-axis, but as the humiliation execution introduces massive liabilities, the data point drags violently to the far right. The campaign's final position on the matrix proves the execution failed. It is trapped in the quadrant of high attention, but unacceptably high brand peril. Massive viral engagement is a dangerous vanity metric if it is built on a foundation of ethical risk and regulatory exposure. The E.g. Bank case study leaves us with a stark contradiction. The campaign succeeded in reaching its audience, but it entirely failed to protect them. Correctly identifying a consumer's cultural pain point is excellent strategy. Mocking that pain point is a corporate liability. Modern brand strategists must avoid the ultimate trap when utilizing humor. Relatability does not equal normalization. Long-term brand equity cannot survive the active psychological degradation of its own target consumer. True brand prestige requires elevating the customer out of their painful circumstances, not leveraging their oppression for a laugh.